This is Around the Town, and I'm your co-host, Tom Byrne.
And this is Barbara Byrne, and our guest today is Jan Barsanti of Lothrop School in Pittsford, Vermont. Jan, introduce your young people.
I'll start to my right. This is Amy Wheeler, Darcy Carvey, Heather Thomas, Eric Hession, and Megan Osterhart.
Now, would you please tell us about your project, the play that you're doing tonight?
Parts of the play that we'll be performing tonight is from a large-scale play that was done at Lothrop. It is a little unique as opposed to traditional plays that Lothrop has done in the past, in that this play was written by Don Tretton and Bonnie Bourne's reading class. That's what makes it quite exciting. It incorporated a lot more students than traditionally we have used in prior productions.
What grades were these children?
Well, the play concentrated on grades 4 through 6. I think Heather and Darcy and Amy are in grades 4. Eric, grade 6, and Megan is in grade 5. The writing of the play incorporated grades 5 through 6. The students that participated in the producing of the props were in grade 6.
Mm-hmm.
Did all the students, pardon me, did all the students participate, Jan?
Did all the students in grades 4 through 6?
Yes.
No, generally what happens is a roster is sent out to see what students would be interested in the theatrical aspect of a play. I was approached at the beginning of the year by 2 teachers, Bonnie Bourne and Don Tretton, with an idea that they would like to incorporate into their language arts program the writing of a play. And they asked me if I would be interested in directing the play. It seemed like a terrific idea to me, and I thought that we should go for it. To tell you a little bit about the play, we thought that Megan and Eric could perform a scene which kind of sets the tone, sets the story of the play. Megan and Eric, are you ready to begin?
Yeah.
Your scene?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Gramp. Here, I have a little treat for you.
Oh, what's that?
It's those delicious apple cookies that Mom makes.
Well, let me clear up a space on my bench and we can try them out.
What's this, Gramp?
Well, you know the ornament that I always help you and your cousins make for the top of the family's Christmas tree?
Oh, yes. That's one of my favorite things to do. I love the ones you showed us how to make before. They're so much prettier than those plastic ones you buy in the store. I love the ones you showed us how to weave and weave.
Well, that piece you're holding is part of an idea I have for this year's ornament.
It's kind of early working on the Christmas ornament, isn't it, Gramp?
I have a kind of special idea for this year's ornament, so I wanted to get an early start. You know how disappointed I would be if I didn't get to help you and your cousins make the ornament for the top of the family's Christmas tree. I can remember loving to help my grandfather make them for the top of our family's Christmas tree. It's a tradition we've had in this family for a very long time.
Gramp, I didn't know that making a Christmas ornament could be a tradition. Are you sure that's what it is? Tradition?
Well, yes, I'm sure, Emily. Why do you ask?
Well, you see, we have this assignment in school. We're supposed to find out about our family traditions. I thought traditions were big, important things, you know, special occasions. I didn't know that making a Christmas ornament could be a tradition.
Yes, it is. You see, a tradition can be anything, really. A family can get together like us, making a Christmas ornament, and continue to do it. When the children of the family grow up and have children of their own, they continue to do it with their children. It's something we always remember to do. We call it our family tradition.
But, Gramp, how did our family get that tradition?
Well, see this picture?
Yes, but who is it? It's nobody I know.
Oh, yes, it is. See that boy in the red suspenders?
Yes.
Well, that was me when I was about your age.
What traditions did our family have when you were little, Gramp?
Well, let me tell you, boy, do I remember those days.
That ends that segment of the scene. It pretty much sets the scene for the whole play, which deals with generations and traditions. Perhaps Darcy would like to address the actual writing of the play and how it evolved, how the general story got evolved of traditions and generations.
Well, first of all, 2 grades got together and were thinking of a play, and we finally got the first scene done, but then we were thinking of more scenes to do. So we were thinking about a dancing scene because that's what our teacher mentioned earlier. So we had to get an idea of what we had to do first. Then some people came up with an idea of a girl going to school, coming home, and asking her mother where or what a tradition was. And her mother told her to go to her grandfather because her grandfather had many experiences of traditions and generations. So she went to her grandfather and asked him what it was, and he gave her some ideas what they were.
How the actual writing of the play took place was Don Trenton started the story, started the play by telling a story. That's where the germs of the play actually took place. Through that, children were paired up and they were asked to write a scene. I don't know exactly how large the classes were. I would say roughly, how many people are in your writing class, Darcy?
About
15, 20?
Yeah, 15, around 20,
Okay.
25.
The students paired up, wrote a scene, and at the end, when everyone's scenes were completed, the class took a vote on which scene they liked the best, and that was the scene that was chosen. The 6th graders were involved later on, about in the middle of the play. They took an interesting part in the play in that they did a lot of research, actual research, by talking to their grandparents.
I was wondering
and
about
getting
that.
a lot of information. These scenes, there were actually 3 flashbacks that were created from actual discussions with grandparents. Amy Wheeler was very instrumental, acting-wise, in one of those flashbacks. Amy, maybe you would like to kind of set the scene and tell us about that particular flashback.
Well, we had a flashback of a ballet scene, actually. We had, me being the dance instructor, we had a lady come into our class from Rutland High School.
She's a senior from Rutland High. Her name is Tracy Mandela, and she's a student at Miss Lorraine's School of Dance.
And she came in and she taught us a couple of steps for our scene in the dance. And some of the children in that scene, they didn't quite get it right on one step, and they were not following the rhythmic step to go along with the person that is in front of you. And so we made it into an actual humorous scene by just, because they couldn't get that step, to make it humorous by telling them, you know, no, this isn't right, it's wrong, you know what I mean? So that it would be humorous, but to the actors it wouldn't be, because they were worried about it.
It sounds like the children use the same techniques that the adults use when plays or musical comedies are written.
Somewhat. I think instead of fighting a scene, we took the natural ability of Amy, which was very very forthright, very, very strong character, and took the children's inability to get some steps
Right.
and projected some humor into it. And we're hoping that it's going to get a lot of laughs. I think that it will. The kids did a super job.
Jan, did the children have any previous instruction in playwriting?
No, I don't believe any of them did. I think this was the first experience for all of them. The beauty of playwriting, the teachers are telling me, is that many language skills were taught through playwriting, which was very lovely because children were able to learn in an atmosphere of fun, which is neat.
Better, easier to learn that way, I believe, than when you're enjoying it.
I think that they found that this was their experience. They enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, they're telling me now that they're very anxious to write another play.
Oh, wonderful.
In that Lothrop produces 2 plays a year, one for grades 4 through 6, and the second play for grades 1 through 3. Perhaps we'll take them up on it.
Great.
The children really had an enormous amount of fun.
I can recall when I was their age, the only thing that we ever did would approach a play was more like a pageant or a crowd of children pushed up on a stage, and one or two of them had a verse to say, and that was about it. But I can see that these children are getting exposed to something that it really will benefit them for the rest of their life.
I think it's particularly meaningful in this play. You mentioned Christmas pageant. You know, I think traditional Christmas pageants, children are given lines to memorize. It doesn't really have a whole lot of significance or meaning to them. I think with so many children that acted in this play, actually participated in the writing, so they had a big investment in this play. Rather than memorize a lot of lines, they pretty much knew the storyline, so they could go in there and feel very comfortable, a little more flexible on the stage, which was nice to see. Oftentimes, I feel line memorization takes away from a lot of the natural theatrical ability that one would like to see a child pick up on.
Well, I had a similar experience about 25 years ago with a Sunday school class. We wrote a play, and we had a young lady, and it was in an upper grade that could write shorthand, so she came in and wrote down in shorthand every idea that the children had and any line that they presented, and the children really got a tremendous thrill out of writing that play, and everyone had a part, more than one part, and they enjoyed. That was the greatest part of the year's Sunday school, was the writing of a play and producing it and acting in it.
How about the props? Did the children find those also?
None of the children here presently produced any of the props, but a handful of boys who had the ability to use their hands quite well and were quite artistic produced all of the props. They're excellent.
The scenes, the backdrop,
the scenes, the props. I know Eric at many times in his workbench scene uses a lot of tools which have been made by these students. Eric, have you had an opportunity to use many of the tools? I haven't seen a whole lot of them to date. Have you seen many of the tools that were made for you?
No, not really.
No.
I've only seen the ones that were tacked up on the bulletin board.
Okay.
When is the play going to be?
The play is going to be Wednesday, December 18th. Next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. In addition to the play, there will be singing from grades 1 through 3. The choir, which will be singing for the play, will be there in addition, and there will be an instrumental section there.
Will anyone be in costume?
Yes. Heather, would you like to tell us a little bit about the costuming?
Well, the girls they're going to wear like a leotard and tights with ribbons in their hair, and skirts and blouses and sweaters over their tights and leotards. And Gramp is going to wear red suspenders.
That he has on right now.
I'm not sure what Emily's going to wear.
Now, this is all your own idea as to the costumes?
No.
No?
It's not my idea.
Who else worked with you? It out.
I'm not sure.
She just is telling us what they're going to wear.
Right. Many of us talked over what people would wear as this play takes place at the turn of the century. So the attire is a little bit differently than what we would know it today. So we had to do some brainstorming. How did people actually dress back then? And we did that. There's a skating scene in the play. Darcy, do you want to tell us a little bit about the attire that people will be wearing for the skating scene?
Well, for the skating scene, we'll be wearing hat, mittens, scarves, jackets, great big sweaters, and maybe ski pants for the play.
What other scenes are there? And I know there are several flashbacks. What the skating scene and the dance scene, and what else is there?
There are three main flashbacks, which is where Emily gets a true understanding of what traditions and generations are all about. The first flashback is a Christmas tree scene. Eric, would you like to tell us about the Christmas tree scene?
Well, the Christmas tree scene is about a father, a mother, 2 daughters, and a son. And they all are out in the woods, and they chop down this tree, and they're all very happy. And they bring it around to the front of the stage, and they are all excited, and they have to do their chores before they can hang it up. And they do all their chores, and then they go right to the skating party they're gonna have.
I think what was neat in the classroom when they were writing the plays, the teachers took great efforts to kind of look at what was life like at that time and comparing it to this time. And it was very interesting. They found some pros and cons of both aspects, both parts.
Some things
Of
back
life.
then were better than now, and vice versa.
Can any students here kind of talk about that? I wasn't part of that conversation. Darcy, were you part of that?
Not really.
Not really. And Megan wasn't either. Perhaps it was mostly done in the 6th grade classroom. Megan, can you tell us about the second flashback? The second flashback was the skating scene, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the skating scene?
I don't know anything about the skating scene.
You don't know anybody here talk about the skating scene? Anybody here in the skating scene? Eric?
I'm not in it, but they all skate around, and they skate in pairs, and then they make a big circle, and they're acting like they're skating. And they skate to music, and we have to be off to the side, just talking silently, because we have to. It's like remembering back, not talking.
Are there any other boys in the play?
There's one other boy whose name is Drew Smith, and he acts the part of young grandfather in Red Suspenders during his youth. Oh, and there's one other boy, Jesse, who is Eric's dad, right?
Yeah.
It's your father. There's a third flashback. Would anyone like to tell us about the third? You've talked about the third flashback, right? The third flashback is the dancing scene, right? And after the dancing scene, Emily, can you kind of go into your chat with Grandpa in terms of your understanding of what an ornament, what significance the ornament had in terms of your understanding, your classroom assignment of generations and traditions? Well, let's think. Our assignment was to know what a tradition and generation was. At the end of the play, did you have a good grasp of what generations and traditions were?
Yes, I did.
Well, that pretty much tells us how how Emily found out about traditions and generations. After that point, we have a narrator that comes on that kind of takes us into, gives us an idea of what Emily does in current times and what happens to Grandpa.
Oh, brings us up to date as to what happened after this play.
After that particular day in which Emily discovers what a tradition is. Darcy, you did a lot of writing on the narration. Perhaps you would like to talk to us about that.
Well, the one where the grandfather visits the flower.
Yes, but just before that, Grandpa becomes very ill.
Well, you see, Emily, she did become a dancer like she wanted to. And, like, when she was becoming a good dancer, her grandfather came very ill. And she was really worried about him because she loved him so much because he helped her with a lot of things she did in school and just helped her to make things and stuff.
Is there anyone here that wants to be an actress or a dancer sometime in the future?
Oh, everyone.
I think I'd like to be an agent for some of them.
Yes.
They're unbelievably
It sounds as if they're talented.
They're very, very talented, and it's been a joy and a pleasure working with them. It really has been. It's been an enormous amount of fun.
I can imagine that it must be.
Also teaches composure that they may be able to use later on in their life as adults if they don't go into show business.
I think an enormous amount of stage presence, composure, as well as a general heightened sense of self-esteem. I think it's pretty difficult getting on that stage for the first time, particularly in front of your peers. It's very interesting with a lot of plays that I have worked on. The plays in which children have to perform in front of their peers is far more frightening than for their parents. It's scary. It's taking a chance. It's taking a risk. And I think anyone that does so deserves an enormous amount of credit.
That's
I
right.
agree.
I can remember that when I was in high school, I was deathly afraid to be involved in anything in front of people. And after I married and Barbara and I had children, I made up my mind that I would do all the things then that I didn't do in high school. And I was in plays with my children, and I fulfilled an ambition that I had in school days that I was afraid to do. So these children are really getting a head start.
Maybe the best part of participating in this play was for you. Megan, can we start with you?
Well, the best part was that you could, when your lines, you didn't know your lines, you could make up lines of your own, and they didn't have to be exactly right because nobody knew that you used a script. And it's just, I think it's fun to be in plays.
Eric?
Well, I think the best part was that you didn't really have to memorize every word for word. You could just like know what your line's about, and then really make up your own words, sort of, but you had to be on the right track, but not word for word, as had to in other plays.
Very good. Dorothy?
And
Darcy. The best part was, like, before we went on the stage, Mrs. Barsanti and Mr. Trenton would let us loosen up by some, like, games called What If, and it sort of made you loosen up a lot.
Heather?
Well, I just think we're lucky to be in plays because some schools don't hold plays and don't have their teachers be nice enough to let the kids be in plays and be able to act in front of people.
Anne? Amy, I'm sorry.
I think it was just pure fun to be in a play because it's like kind of a way to, you have to be the character. You can't, the character that you are, you be that character. You're not, if you're a certain character, you're not a different one and you just go with that character.
I think Amy's has raised a very interesting point. It's been very interesting for me to sit back and see the characters develop as they have. The children have, in essence, have become their characters, and that's been kind of a neat experience. It's been a growing experience for them, and it's been fun to witness.
Eric, I think you'd make a very good grandfather from what I've seen so far.
Funny.
I think it's a whittle, Eric.
Oh, of course.
And the red suspenders.
Yeah.
What else can you tell us about the production, Jan?
Well, what have I missed, kids?
The last scene.
The last scene.
The last scene. The last scene is a very important scene. Darcy, why don't you tell us about that, because you and Megan were in it.
We'll tell them what it's about.
Yeah, go into what it's about and the importance of it.
It's about when Megan, or Emily, is real old and she got married and had a baby. And it was about saying that her daughter, the child, was really excited about doing the things because she just liked doing that. And Emily told us me a story about when she was my age and about how her grandfather helped her carve an angel. And it's been handed down through generations, and it's always been on the top of the Christmas tree. And soon, like, I find the angel, and she said that she thought she lost it, and she was really relieved that she found it to put on the top of the Christmas tree.
Very good.
Can you tell any of you, all of you, what you learned through doing this play? I think we talk a lot about generations and about tradition, and for many of us, particularly young people, tradition is such an empty word. Do you want to maybe expand upon what you've learned about traditions? Has it given you an opportunity to maybe look at some of the traditions that have been handed down to you from your parents and your grandparents? Heather?
Well, one of the things that I learned was that traditions aren't like one thing you do every year. It's many things that you can do, like maybe once a month or something.
Okay. Amy, would you like to tell us about your experience with the term tradition and what's come to mean to you from acting in the play?
Well, like, I think it was a good experience, like, for the grandfather to be actually telling another generation about, about his lifetime when he was a little boy and when he was young, and that in all the flashbacks and stuff, I think it's just great that grandfather really helped her by these flashbacks in doing her report in social studies.
Eric?
Well, I learned a little more about what a tradition really is. Like, I learned more about what it is. It's not, well, I don't know, but I learned, like, the true meaning of it, not what I thought it was.
Can you tell us what you think the true meaning of a tradition is, Eric?
Well, it's something that you and your family get together to do, and it's not anything big or it's not anything real little either, but it's something that's pretty important to your family.
I think that says it, Eric. That's very well put.
Thank you very much, Jan, for bringing the children here. We've enjoyed hearing about your project, your play, and about tradition.
Well, it's been a pleasure being here, and we thank you for having us.
And
And we
thank
hope-
you for me, children, for coming. This has been Around the Town. Thank you for watching.